to the channel. Today I'm just going to go over what equipment I use for dry tooling, and specifically dry tooling. I'm not going to cover what I use for summer. It sort of ties into some of the stuff that I use for winter climbing, but I'm just going to make a video on this today. The first thing that I will always suggest for everybody to use, whether they're summer rock climbing, winter climbing, dry tooling especially, is the helmet. Now I use the Petzl Sirocco helmet. It is super light and it also has a lowered back and sides for extra protection around the head, which is always good when you're swinging axes about. And if you look at the meshing on the inside, I find it particularly nice because it doesn't actually rub, because the straps are a lot thinner, but at the same time quite secure and quite comfortable. Also has a magnetic strap here, which is a firm favourite of mine and a lot easier to use than having to try and unbuckle, especially using gloves. The next thing I use, and I've had some questions on before, is gloves. I just use simple golf gloves. These are just FootJoy ones that I like to use in particular, just because I find that they fit my hands a lot better. But if you are dry tooling a lot and you end up trashing, I've shown you with these pair, you end up trashing your gloves quite easily because you're always on your axes and stuff, and you might rip fingers off and whatever when you're trying to like swap hands. So I'd recommend just getting a cheap pair of golf gloves. They provide enough protection on your hand at the same time as being able to allow a lot of feedback, just because of the thin leather. So I would recommend, if you're just dry tooling and it's pretty warm, then just use a pair of golf gloves. The next thing, my favourite things, is axes. Now I use the Petzl Ergonomics as my primary axe. I've also got the Generation 2, which I love, but I'll just give you a close-up of this axe. This axe in particular is my favourite just because of its handle. If you can see as well, the pommel is able to be adjusted, which as I started ice climbing and dry tooling when I was 13, I had a lot smaller hands back then, and being able to adjust the pommel sizes is really helpful. And I find that I recommend Ergonomics a lot to especially women or people with really small hands, just because it provides a lot more comfort. The new Ergonomic handle is slightly different from the older versions, such as the Gen 1 and Gen 2. Petzl has designed the handle to be slightly more square, which allows a more ergonomical grip. If you imagine that your hand is able to be a lot more open, you're able to prevent your over squeezing and your forearms to get really pumped. So yes, the newly designed handle is amazing, and I'll just give you a close-up of the shaft of the axe. Also with the new Ergonomic, it has a hydroformed shaft, so if you're a winter maniac and you like plunging in snow, it just provides a really comfortable handle for plunging into snow. This Ergonomic, the new Ergonomic, has a nylon insert here, which prevents it keeps head strength. And in this pick here, this is the Petzl Pure Dry pick, which is T rated. This is my favourite Petzl pick just because it's super aggressive. So if you're wanting to dry tool some pretty hard routes, this is a pick that I'd suggest going with, and it's a lot more of a competitive pick compared to the previous Petzl picks. It has really good stein teeth, just to provide some really good stability when in certain moves such as a stein. And also me and my dad hardly have to sharpen the pick, which is also great, just saves you a lot of time. The next axe, which is a firm favourite in the Powell household, is the Ergonomic. The Ergonomic has a recessed handle, if you can see, compared to the Ergonomic here. It just gives a greater angle between the pick and the handle, so you're at a slightly more laid back position. This is advantageous if you're climbing routes which you're wanting to like hook over, if there's particular rocks or you're hanging over edges, which is really good for. Also, if you are climbing more featured, more 3D sort of looking ice, this handle is really good. And as with the new Ergonomic here, the handle is a lot more squared off. Again, Petzl did a really great job looking at how to reduce forearm pump and creating the most ergonomical position for a climber's hand to be at. This one, as well as the new Ergonomics, has the hydroform shaft, and we use the pure dry piston as well. And if you look, this is just a slightly we curved out with the file on the other one because it's for resin hold, so it grips easier when it's slightly curved, the pick. But this is just how they come, apart from the flat front. Once again, a very, very good axe made by Petzl. The next thing that I use for dry tooling is my La Sportiva Mega Ice Evos. These are the best fruit boots, I do think, in the world. These boots, I've had them for, I want to say, more than 5 years, maybe 7 years-ish. I'll show you what the inside of these boots look like. They are lace, which I actually prefer, just so then you can really pull them anywhere down the boot. And this is like the inside section of the boot, and the outside. You can also remove the back section, the back spikes on the heel. And yeah, I wouldn't suggest for somebody who is just beginning to dry tool to go out and buy themselves a pair of fruit boots, you know, unless they want to. You often can get away with just wearing your B3s and your crampons, probably between the grades of like D4 to D7-ish. But if you are wanting to practice fig 4s and harder, maybe roof sections, your core especially will thank you for picking up a pair of fruit boots like this. So that's what those ones look like. The next thing, which is also quite important for safety wise, is my harness. Now, this is the Petzl Lunar harness. It is the best harness out there, I think. Personally, I actually tested out this harness as part of Petzl test team. It is super, super, super padded, which is great. It's also built in mind for women, and when women have slightly curvy hips, so it sits perfectly on the hips. It has padded legs. It also has an adjustable buckle for the legs, which is great for if anybody out there does a bit like me, does other training and the legs are a bit more muscly than normal. Or you just want a bit of extra space and you just want to loosen it off a bit. The buckle is great. It also has some amazingly big gear loops, as you can see, and you've also got this handy one at the back, which yeah, I like to use as well. So yeah, and then I've also got my trusted gree on there. And the last thing I would suggest for anybody who wants to get into dry tooling or is just interested, these are the Mantis Tools. They're sort of like a dry tool. You can use them on indoor walls. I did a recent article on Chalk Block actually, and yeah, I found them the best dry tools that I've ever used, and I have tried quite a few of them. I'll just run you through the specs of this. They have a rubber front which attaches to the hold. This rubber is super strong, and the times that I've used it, it's hardly marked them, and you can also get this replaced, I do believe. It has an aluminium insert which is allows it to be a lot more stronger, and it's also got really nice comfortable handle. We've had over 100 kilos hanging off one axe of this, and it hasn't broken. The only thing I would keep in mind is that you don't really want to do maybe like steins or extreme moves such as torques or anything that doesn't pull in the line of where you're climbing through, so straight down or to the side or wherever, and you don't want to be like resting the head of this Mantis tool on anything. That is a great alternative, and it's also a good alternative if you don't live near a dry tooling quarry, or you just want to practice ready for winter. So I would really suggest having a look at Mantis Tools. You can find them on Instagram, or you can have a look at the chalk block article that I wrote if you want some more information. Right, I think I've covered everything there, and let's have a look. So I recently had an Instagram question and answer, and I said the top 5, the quickest 5 questions will get a mention. I've probably got more here, but the first question was from Rob B. Now you've ticked the M11, what keeps you motivated to train hard during lockdown? That's a really good question. I am quite an intrinsically motivated person in general, I'd like to think anyway. I've always trained at home, and to be honest, I've probably only trained with very few people. I usually train with my dad or usually by myself, so I'm usually independent with my training. So lockdown hasn't really affected me too much. I'm only really able to train on the home wall as it allows me to do the dry tooling, and most places near me won't allow it apart from maybe with the Mantis Tools. So I think goals is a really good thing to get yourself set on. It doesn't have to be an amazing massive route that you want to get ticked. It could be daily goals of doing a run 3 times a week, or a climb, or any of those things. The next question is which axes do I use and why? And that was from Etienne, and I use the Ergonomics. I am religiously faithful to the Ergonomics. I've used them since I've started climbing. So from 2013 I started ice climbing and dry tooling. So I've had a good 7 years on the Nomics, and I know how they feel, and I know how amazing the balance is of both the Nomics and the Ergonomics, but particularly the Nomics. Any tips for training D12 by at Dry Roasty? Well, I haven't actually done a D12 yet, so if you get there first, please give me some advice. I'd probably say first of all, pick your D12 that you want to train for. And set a training program. Make sure that you're consistently on your axes, that you do your antagonistic work, your stretching work, that you're doing specific exercises for training for it. If it's got like loads of steins, and make sure that you're comfortable doing steins. And that's probably all the tips I could give you, and probably try and stay motivated as best you can. I don't do my own coaching. My dad, Phil Powell, shout out, does my coaching and training plans. So yeah, I'd probably just try start with a training plan, or maybe reach out to coaches out there who might be able to give you some more tips. Best dry tools that can be used in climbing gyms, that was from Loki. Mantis Tools are really great to use. I do follow you, Loki, by the way, and I have seen that you've been able to do some with similar dry tools like this. Yeah, just try dry tools, and also you can approach your climbing wall often, and you could say, could I use this section for dry tooling? Often it's a safety issue, and you've got to be make sure that you're competent in it. But yeah, just try your best, and if not, maybe try a dry tooling venue near you, or yeah, just keep on with the dry tools such as the Mantis. Somebody asked, why do I show projecting of routes such as on my media platforms? I like to show myself projecting routes such as the M11 because it shows the authenticity of it. It shows that I go out and I really train on these routes. And often, if you're pushing yourself and pushing, especially in Britain, being the youngest woman to climb M11, if you're pushing that goal further for the country and stuff, you don't just turn up and rock up often and just climb the route. It shows the training which I do is paying off. It shows and hopefully inspires more women to go out there and swing some axes and have fun, or anybody young out there who wants to try dry tooling. And then the last question was, why am I strongest at on-sighting compared to working routes? I think it's probably down to the years of competitive climbing I've done. I've competed since the age of 9 in rock comps, and then from about 13 onwards, I still did rock comps, but then did the international UIAA World Comps. I'd probably say there's an element of training for on-sighting that I enjoy, and I've got a terrible memory. I cannot do the same route twice in a row. The same. It could be 10 minutes apart, half an hour apart. It's not the same. And I think it's just probably a mental thing with me. All the M11 that I've done, I actually turned up on the day, did some ability, and flashed it straight away on that day. So yeah, I probably, that's probably something that's going to challenge me in the future, and that I'm looking to try project more routes such as a D12. Okay, that's all the questions that I've been given. If you have any more questions.